context too. So there is a fear, for instance, that the vernacular languages will be diminished because people, instead of learning these local languages, they want to learn a foreign language on top of the national language, Indonesian language. And the problem of the number of teachers who are qualified by this, we mean, of course, in terms of English, they can speak English well. We have also got reports that the teachers of English cannot speak English, and they just stick to the grammar. And also the support for quality teaching that we also need to push, so then they can support the implementation of the bilingual education. So all of this make, I think, the bilingual education maybe not growing as fast as we would hope. So we are still dealing with this, and maybe we can maybe learn from other countries that in this conference. I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you so much. I think I'll over to you, Bu Syaril.
Thank you very much, Dr. Iwan. Very, very insightful sharing. We can see many comments coming already, just appreciating your very sincere and very informative sharing. I have a few questions for you later, but in the meantime, I would like to invite Ms. Susan Leong, the Center Director for SEAMEO RELC, to share on teachers' development, what the RELC has been doing. And over to you, Susan.
Okay, thank you, Cheng Pia. Good afternoon from Singapore to Dr. Iwan and every member on the panel, and the members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. There are at least 400 of you, and it's a bit disconcerting to speak without seeing any faces. That's not what we are used to. I think there are also many of you I see from the chat from all around the world, including Peru, of course, in Indonesia. So I'm sure it is midnight or early morning, many of you. Thank you for staying awake and joining us for this. I've been given a very short time to do this, and I think our topics, I'm not very sure whether it will match, but today's session, 1 hour, is about teacher development in Indonesia. And thank you, Pak Iwan, for your very interesting and informative sharing. I learned quite a lot about the challenges of what you have in Indonesia. I think the scale of what you face in Indonesia in terms of the number of students, teachers, the geographic spread is clearly quite different and it's a very huge challenge. My great admiration to you and your country for handling such a huge challenge to educate all the children in your country. It is something that is really very difficult. I think now I'm representing another totally different perspective. Indonesia is at one end of the spectrum where the scale is very, very large in numbers. And therefore, they have many very different challenges, not to mention the range of environments that teachers have to teach in and so forth. I'm just representing SEAMEO RELC, which is, of course, in Singapore, and we're the only SEAMEO center in Singapore. We are almost at the other end of the spectrum, as small as you can get. And the main point of being a SEAMEO center really is, given that we are very small, we are just contributing what we can to support and bring up the level of the region in the area that we are specializing in. So with that little bit of preamble, allow me to share screen. And I have got a few slides to share. Okay, share here, sorry, wrong one. Okay. So I will just start by giving you a bit of background and what we do, and hopefully we can see that even though we are both at two ends of the spectrum, there could be some ground in between that we can work together or support each other for the larger mission of developing students. So really, SEAMEO RELC is the only SEAMEO center in Singapore, and our mission is dedicated to the development of language education in the region and the promotion of international cooperation among language professionals. So I reiterate my point just now. Pak Iwan talked about a really large overview of Indonesia overall education. Here I'm looking at the microcosm of just language education and about language professionals. So, and this is from the perspective of SEAMEO RELC in Singapore. So even though we are over 50 years old, we understand very clearly we play a very, very small role, but hopefully it will be helpful in a multiplying effect in many countries. Our vision is to be the center of excellence in language education and research for the region and beyond. Just to share that SEAMEO RELC, since its inception, has been offering scholarships to teachers from all member countries in Southeast Asia, that's 11 now in SEAMEO, to study in RELC. There are many scholarship courses offered. So I'll just share with you the range, and these have changed through time, but this is the existing portfolio we have. And essentially, these are teacher training courses. They are meant for in-service teachers, so they're inset training. It is expected that the teachers are practicing teachers. And I take note of what Pak Iwan said about it's best to train them in school for the leaders. Our humble contribution is that in RELC, we believe in some short courses and some longer courses to extend the teachers, taking them a little away from their busy life in classrooms, and then being able very powerfully to interact with other teachers in the region to really enlarge their perspectives beyond their own classroom as well as their own country. So you can see there are many common things we share, many issues, many challenges. There are also many common solutions we can use and come together to improve the learning of languages for our students. Of course, we are largely talking about English language here. So these are the range of courses we have in SEAMEO RELC at the present moment. There are about 2 or 3 categories. I'll just focus on the left side first. These are really the shorter courses. They are usually 3 weeks long. They are advanced specialist or specialist certification courses. There are 5 titles here you see now in various skills which are core to teaching English language specifically, though generally some of these skills can be also used across languages. So we talked about reading and writing, teaching, listening and speaking, language assessment, which is a very hot topic at the moment, as well as teaching it as an international language, as well as developing teacher leaders and supervisors who can also act as mentors and coaches for their colleagues in the same school or in the same region. In addition, on the right-hand side, I draw your attention to the 2 courses named here. These are longer courses. The first one, the Postgraduate Diploma in Applied Linguistics, actually is about 6 months long. It's a blended course that we offer now. We have been offering it blended since 2013, which means that some of the modules are done face-to-face in a classroom on site in RELC Singapore, and some modules, about half, are done actually at home from the various student course participants in their own respective countries, and there's communication online and they interact using a learning portal. So we thought that this is a good adaptation to the new era since 2013, as I shared. This diploma has been offered continuously since 1972. It's our flagship course without interruption. And it was first offered and is largely offered as a face-to-face course until 2013. And in that year, I think we realized that students are increasingly living in a connected world using the internet. And we felt part of the skills we could help impart is what better way than to teach students by making them experience it themselves. So we actually came up with this blended program whereby the course participants who are actually teachers will experience what it is like to be learning online. And the feedback has been good because many teachers are telling us that they actually came across new issues they were not familiar with if they were not course participants in a course that is online that perhaps their students might be doing eventually. And of course, this is all in good time when we have COVID hitting us this year. So we went basically cautiously from a blended mode, and all of us are forced, as mentioned earlier on, we are forced to go completely online teaching. So we go from a face-to-face to a blended mode to a completely online mode. And we all know there are different skills needed for the teachers as well as the students. And there are various learning obstacles and hurdles we have to come across. Some are difficult to overcome, some are easier as long as they have experienced it. And we have also moved some of our courses completely online because we cannot meet the students face-to-face in these circumstances. But we felt that the learning they got from doing an online course is actually very valuable, that they can then go on to teach their own classes, largely online in some cases. I also want to speak a little about the Masters in TESOL that we offer in conjunction with the Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. This is a one-year-long program. Again, both these programs have gone through lots of changes this year in response to COVID. But it's just that we all have to adapt. And I'm happy there are students that are willing to work with us to adapt so that we can carry on the professional development of teachers relatively uninterrupted despite COVID. And the final one I want to draw your attention to is the bottom left. Okay, to reach out to a particular segment of teachers from the region, RELC has since 2018 been offering scholarships to selected secondary school teachers of English to attend this certificate course in English language teaching for secondary school, or CELP-S in short. This is offered by Cambridge Assessment English. And this is actually the start. I did this as one of the flagship points in our 50th anniversary celebration. This is an in-service teacher professional development course that SEAMEO RELC is partnering with Cambridge Assessment English. With the way we're offering it is a blended version. The course helps teachers to improve the quality of their classroom practice by developing and extending their knowledge and skills, which actually is deepening and broadening one's knowledge of what one teaches is the first general competency highlighted in the Southeast Asian Teachers Competency Framework, which was issued by SEAMEO also in 2018. So we are aligning what we are teaching or what we see teachers' development needs to be with what SEAMEO has come up with that teachers need as well. The course also focuses on appropriate strategies, methods, and materials teachers need to teach language effectively and to engage their learners. All these areas address another general competency highlighted in the Southeast Asian Teachers Competency Framework here, which is to understand how students learn. So I'll quickly go on. I think I've exceeded my time. That teachers who successfully complete the course and meets its requirements will obtain the globally recognized CELP-S qualification, as well as the TKT Certificate Module 1 from Cambridge Assessment English. In addition, just briefly highlight, SEAMEO RELC also offers many customized courses for teachers and teacher educators in these areas. I won't read them out. For teachers and teacher educators, as well as language proficiency courses. This is to meet the very different needs of our Southeast Asian region, where the different countries may have different learning needs and priorities. Okay, with that, I think I'll stop. Thank you, Champion.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. So may I invite Dr. Iwan and Susan on this virtual screen for some discussion. And Dr. Iwan, thank you again for sharing very insightful information on Indonesia and how, as a Director General of the Ministry of Education of Indonesia, you would like to take Indonesia into Education 4.0. And then, of course, Indonesia is the largest economy in ASEAN and the 10th largest economy in the world. You have a lot of young population. And also, just to quote from one of your social media posting, you say that Indonesia is in a mission to transform Indonesia by rethinking education and redesigning learning for current and future learners. And then in your sharing, you say that teachers are mentors and also coaches. to young people, to prepare them to participate in a more interconnected world, but also appreciate culture differences. So, like what Susan mentioned as well, we all are very, very respectful and of how Indonesia, such a large country, very diverse, as not just geographically, but also in locations and in the schools spread out. You must have a lot of challenges to implement large-scale teachers development programs in Indonesia, especially taking into consideration what you have just shared about Merdeka Belajar. All stakeholders in the ecology that will make it successful. We all know that it is not difficult to come up with a fantastic strategy on paper, but the challenge is really in the monitoring of the progress. So would you like to share with us some of the challenges and how do you think you want to implement or monitor the implementation?
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. The question is very much is what I'm wrestling every day. This is not easy at all, of course, and I think I don't think like we never lack of good ideas. It's just all about the implementation. I think one of the reality that for me, like since becoming the Director General, is that to understand like the real challenges of this implementation. We have, like I mentioned earlier, about 514 local governments plus 34 provinces that have like local autonomy. So no matter what you try to decide, and you have like all of these local governments that have the autonomy by law to implement according to how they see fit, and it's not. I think the system, we need to clean up like a lot of things in the system, like the regulation, and also it also involves the communication, like the top level communication to coordinate this, and therefore making it implementable. However, I think what we see as the game changers, I mentioned earlier, is technology. I think technology has created this opportunity for us. And I'm saying this also as a reflection from what is happening, the COVID that's happening at the moment. I think all around the world, we are seeing like how teachers, educators are getting more used to using the technology. The main challenge of the technology adoption in Indonesia before COVID, like we did like some kind of small research on this, is not the capability, not the ability to use technology, but the anxiety. So our teachers and educators, before they start to use technology, already feel anxious, just like learners in general, right? So when you have like this mental block, so any learning cannot happen. So COVID has reduced that anxiety, because there's like, we are conditioned to do that. And we don't have other options. So we believe with technology, and we're building like the national technology platform at the moment to solve not only, so first to solve the administrative issue. So the school leaders and teachers can do like this routine, mundane admin schools things more automatically, so then they can then have more time to do what's more important, which is serving the students. Like creating a report maybe that takes maybe 2 months can be done in 10 minutes, right? So imagine that, like that can be like a game changer for a lot of schools in Indonesia. And then the teachers can also, instead of like, they have to wait for their turn to get training that requires a lot of budget. They need to travel to the capital city or even like to Java. They can do it more independently. And we like the ecosystem at the moment. I want to share you that we launched an emergency curriculum for COVID like 2 months ago, and then we created a platform for teacher learning to help teachers implement this emergency curriculum. And this is not like an instruction top down, but this is just like a very bottom-up voluntary that the teachers can sign up and do this training. I just like challenged my staff and I said, hey, we need to reach at least 100,000 by the end of the year. We started this in early October, and then in 10 days, that number has been reached. Like all teachers volunteered to participate to this training that we designed through, you know, like how we know best about the online platform, doing it in chunks, interactive, and etc. But then we've got like 100,000. We hit that number in 10 days. So what I see, I think there's a sense of hopefulness that this not only the technology but also the maturity, the reduced anxiety of our teachers to use this. So even they are in remote islands, they can learn anytime they want. They don't need to wait for their turns and get like the budget to do the training. Yes, then the problem then can there some schools, some areas don't have electricity still, about less than 10%, but still it's something, and internet. So this is an infrastructure for Indonesia that is needed to reach out to this. So for the implementation problem, we cut all these admin and bureaucratic layers, so reaching directly to the teachers and schools.
Thank you, Dr. Iwan.
That's the hope.
It is very good to hear about teachers having access to technology or in remote area. I mean, just to share with you that recently we have a teacher seminar as well for Indonesia, and we partner with Telkomsel. So that shows that the teachers actually do get access to technology or through Telkomsel. So thank you very much. Just one other question for you, Dr. Iwan, is Indonesia being the 10th largest economy in the world, and then you have a big young population. Definitely you want to grow more in the world economy. So how important is it, you think, English is for Indonesia, and also how do you want to train your English language teachers?
Super important. I think this is a strategic investment for our students, and for being engaged in the global and understanding, first getting access, understanding, and then participating in global engagement of whatever like the problems that we're facing together in this shared global village. And I think what needs to be done, I think one, and this is like the theme for teacher development in general too in Indonesia, which is about the quality. We want English teachers who can speak English well. We need to, and we've been talking to some partners, possible partners for us to be engaged. Cambridge is one of them. The benchmark that we want to see, and how we can provide these learning opportunities, right? So this is for our teachers, it's about providing multiple learning opportunities for them to improve, because they are also learners. Teachers are learners, and they need to have like to cultivate that motivation to learn. I think the most expensive element in learning is motivation. You can be like the smartest person in the world, but if you don't have any motivation, done. It's not going to happen. But even though like potentially maybe you're not very smart, but if you have like the drive and willingness to learn, I think learning can happen fantastically. And we've seen this in students, and I think it's the same with teachers. So creating this learning ecosystem, I think for us, this motivation and enthusiasm to learn. And at the moment, we're seeing this with COVID too. Like teachers learn not because they want to get the certificate that will be counted as part of their career credit promotion, but because they want to solve problems, because we have problems and they want to solve problems, therefore they learn. So the motivation is more intrinsic. And I think this is for English teachers is the same. We're going to provide multiple learning opportunities for them, setting like the benchmark where it should be, and not having like just like learning at all in general, not like punish, but it's more like providing like the motivation for them, positive motivation to keep learning, because I think the key is always like to learn. We cannot stay still.
Thank you, Dr. Iwan. And Susan, we have one question for you. Being the Center Director for SEAMEO RELC, RELC would have given a lot of advice to many ministries in ASEAN. So what is the one piece of advice that you would give to ministries or regional Department of Education who wants to implement English language development or upskilling teachers program for their own territories or country?
Okay, actually, we are not officially consulting with governments as such, but we do meet many of the centers from all over the SEAMEO region, and they do share with us what you have just stated as the question. I think my general point is to echo what Pak Iwan said, is that the key to improving anything in education must lie with the teacher, and support and resources must be given for the teachers in learning. In this case, you're talking about using English, especially English as a language of communication. Of course, there's the content part and so forth. So essentially, I think the approach to take for different scale countries are quite different. But I think what was mentioned and shared for Indonesia, I think is the appropriate version we are advising. That is, you train maybe a core group who are so-called your master teachers. And obviously, these are all well selected. And therefore, they also will be not only selected in terms of skills as emphasized, but also their motivation that they want to go back and share and spread this. So when they get the knowledge, they are very passionate and they go back to their contacts and then they will share it. And basically, the skills will then be multiplied many-fold. So it depends on the master person who is the first trained, how effective they are in sharing. And actually, my point is that to people who consult with us, we found that this one model, if it stops only at one stage, may have limited impact if you don't monitor, as Dr. Iwan said, the implementation. That means you also need to check at the different stages of sharing. So you can see how effective that one master teacher is to share with one group, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of clusters. And then after that, you also want to check, because they will probably in a huge country like Indonesia, cascade that further down. So again, there has to be support, coaching, mentoring, as well as checking, implementation checking at the next level down, where it spreads to another 1,000 schools and 1,000 teachers and so forth. So I think pay attention to the actual monitoring beyond just the first level. You also need to support the others in all the different stages, depending on the scale of your country, of course. That's my Susan. 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Iwan and Susan Leong. So just for me to conclude quickly, I have, to look at COVID-19, we know that it is a very challenging time, and the whole world is trying to cope with it daily, practically. But at the same time, the COVID pandemic has a positive influence on us. Just like what Dr. Iwan mentioned, it helps us to speed up that technology adoption, more or less force us to do so. There are some anxiety, of course, in the beginning, but now we learn to cope with it, like what we're doing now in this virtual conference. And then there are 2 words that I would say that is my takeaway, my personal takeaway on this topic: drive and motivation. So the drive and motivation of teachers or learners or even stakeholders or ministries are very, very important. Like Dr. Iwan, I can feel, even though I'm sitting in my home in Singapore, your energetic, your energy, your positive energy, I could feel it when you present the Merdeka Belajar transformation. I mean, it is so much. We can, somebody put in the chat box that, they have goosebumps just listening to that presentation. So thank you very much for sharing your insight. And thank you also for considering Cambridge as one of your partners that will be in this Merdeka Belajar journey. Thank you. Over to you, Sonia.
Yes. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Iwan Syaril, Ms. Susan Leong, and Cheng Pierre
For this session, we're gonna finish it and continue to the next session. So I will over to our next moderator. It's George. Is it you? I over to you. Once again, thank you very much.